Alexander is just going to have to play this very safe, look at the board positioning, figure out, okay, what are the Pokemon that can stop my Dynamax choice, which I'm assuming is going to be the Regieleki, or excuse me, the Glastrier. Could also be Regieleki. Maybe that was just a little bit of future sight going on right there. Then, once those counters are gone, go on the offensive. So I'm really excited to see how Leonard's going to take on this more Trick Room oriented style of play. And who knows, maybe we'll get to see some more helping hands from our good old friend Clefairy.
Well, it is a good point to bring up Regieleki as a potential answer for Alexander, because the best answer on Leonard's side, you would imagine, to stop Dusclops would be Galarian Moltres, right? As a dark type, hitting the Dusclops super effectively. You can, boost your special attack and try to do as much damage as you can and try to stop the Trick Room going up. Regieleki would handle the Galarian Moltres in that scenario. So there is going to be some fun back and forth as our players are getting ready for the start of game one here, Gabby, that these trainers, they have to make that decision.
Yeah, Leonard also has Spectrier, which, given it does have Taunt, that could be another answer for that Dusclops as well. So I think the Amoonguss with the Dusclops is going to be sort of the combo to watch out for on Alexander's side of the field, and we'll see how Leonard decides to go around this Trick Room matchup.
This should be an exciting one. You got some fast Pokemon on Leonard's end. You got some Trick Room on the other side. Let's get into game one here on winners semis in the North American bracket. I'm excited to see if Clefairy can kind of trick his opponent around like we saw in the previous round, baiting out certain attacks from the other side and then not going for what you would predict. But for now, we're not going to see one Galarian Moltres. We're actually going to see two at the start, as it is Galarian Moltres and Regieleki on the side of Alexander Stubbs, and for Leonard Craft, he had Galarian Moltres and Spectrier.
Alexander making a perfect prediction at Team Preview, anticipating that Leonard would not just bring one, but bring two of his potential Trick Room answers here, and sending out the two Pokemon on his side of the field that can deal with Spectrier and Moltres the best. This is a perfect opportunity for Alexander to start going for Nasty Plot on that Galarian Moltres, boost up its special attack, and then maybe go for a turn 2 Dynamax, get some knockouts in, and then once the fast or maybe the bulkier Pokemon that Leonard has on his side of the field have been removed, go for a late game Trick Room, and then it's Glastrier's time to shine.
Spectrier will switch out into Clefairy on Leonard's end here on turn one. No switches from Alexander, as the Regieleki and Galarian Moltres are in very strong positions to attack. Galarian Moltres is the Dynamax option for Alexander here in game one. Clefairy, well, it will not get an attack or a follow me this turn. It is still providing utility thanks to its Friend Guard ability, which will negate 20% of the damage going towards Galarian Moltres. That Electro Web still doing a solid amount of damage, considering it is a spread attack, so you do less damage on spread attacks. But Regieleki is such a strong special attacker there that the weakness policy does get activated, though, because of Electro Web. The only issue is Leonard is slower because of the Electro Web dropping his speed there, so he's going to have to find a way to get that speed back up. You can do that with Max Airstream, of course, but the Max Darkness will lower the special defense on both Clefairy and Regieleki. And the Fiery Wrath just straight up knocks out Regieleki because of the weakness policy boost here. So Alexander losing a Pokemon on turn one. Now Leonard having the option to follow me and redirect an attack away from his Galarian Moltres.
But the special defense drop from the Max Darkness, I think, is going to come into play whenever this Tapu Fini will have the option to go on the offensive for Alexander. Clefairy is already down to below half of its health. Moltres does have access to Max Airstream if it wants to hit that Clefairy for some damage that's non-resisted, should probably score the knockout at this point in time. And then when Tapu Fini is ready, a Moonblast will be more than enough to pick up the knockout onto this Galarian Moltres. So Alexander just continuing to bring this momentum in, continuing to have great speed control and really force Leonard to rethink his strategy. We know that Leonard has the Spectrier still in the back, but if this Galarian Moltres on his side of the field isn't able to remove Alexander's Galarian Moltres in time, it's possible that Alexander will be able to knock it out in a single hit.
Galarian Moltres Leonard has decided that it is time to Dynamax Galarian Moltres on his end, and Clefairy will follow me to redirect an attack from the Moltres. Of course, Alexander going to go for the Max Airstream to not only knock out Clefairy, but also to raise the speed on both the Galarian Moltres and the Tapu Fini. Now, remember the Electro Web happened on the previous turn, lowering the Galarian Moltres' speed by 1 stage. That actually just boosted the Tapu Fini speed by 1 stage, and it's still not enough to knock it out from Moonblast. That will activate Galarian Moltres' Berserk ability, increasing his special attack yet another stage. So that's a +3 Galarian Moltres Max Airstream, completely knocking out Tapu Fini. You do not see that every day, Gabby.
You really don't. I think getting a knockout on a Tapu Fini, especially knowing how bulky they are in Series 9, is something very special. So congratulations, Moltres. Unfortunately, Alexander's Moltres is still on the field and does have the speed advantage when staring down Leonard's own 2 Pokemon, as we do see the reveal of Registeel as Leonard's last Pokemon. So Alexander's still in a great spot to get rid of that Galarian Moltres. Even if he goes for Max Guard this turn, outspeed it next turn, hit it with that Fiery Wrath, do some big damage, and allow Dusclops to slowly whittle down this Registeel between Nightshade and Haze. You don't have to worry about those iron defenses adding up. And I mean, look at Registeel's attacks. Body Press won't be able to connect with Dusclops because it's a ghost type, and that Heavy Slam's not going to be doing a lot of damage either. So Alexander's still in a great spot thanks to the help of this Moltres and excellent speed control.
That was a tough deliberation on Leonard's side, deciding what he wanted to go for this turn. Max Guard is the choice, and that was the correct call, as Alexander's last turn of Dynamax went into that Max Guard, so that was wasted. Nightshade connecting onto Registeel, not setting up Trick Room, of course, because as of right now, Alexander still has the incredibly fast, Max Airstream boosted Galarian Moltres on his end, so you don't want to set up Trick Room for this point, because there's no need for it anymore, so you just try to Nightshade every turn.
And it's really interesting to me that Alexander really went into this game knowing that Dusclops was going to be more anti-Registeel than pro-Trick Room. In this matchup, you really want to punish the Registeel's slow play with those iron defenses. And again, Nightshade is guaranteed to knock out Registeel in what appears to be 4 turns, just eyeballing it. And the Registeel won't be able to find that damage. And even if it did somehow find that damage, Dusclops could just pain split it away. So again, very well played from Alexander here. A Fiery Wrath should be enough to close this game.
Air Slash from Alexander's Moltres will take down Leonard, so Leonard not able to take advantage of its 3rd and final turn of Dynamax here in this game. Life Orb, little bit of recoil, but now it is time for Registeel to start his show. At this point, you got to get the Iron Defense boost. You got to make those body presses really hurt. You don't have many turns. Of course, with this Leftovers recovery, Gabby, that is going to make it so that Nightshade on its own is not going to be a 2-hit KO anymore, since it does, the level-based damage, and we're at level 50. He's at 109 now. So Spectrier as the last Pokemon on Leonard's end. What can the Spectrier do to keep this Registeel safe?
Well, it can taunt, which isn't really enough to stop Nightshade, unfortunately, but will stop Dusclops from hazing away those iron defense boosts. It can go for a Shadow Ball or a Snarl to try and weaken the special attack power of this Moltres, but the way that Leonard has this Spectrier set up on his team, it's really meant to be a support option. A very fast and powerful support option, but a support option nonetheless. So unless this Shadow Ball is able to find a one-hit knockout out, or if the Spectre is able to hold on through this Fiery Wrath, I think that Alexander is going to continue to just punish this Registeel.
You also have to break through that flinch chance as well from Fiery Wrath. So for now, Spectrier did Shadow Ball, super effective into Dusclops, but Registeel flinches! No attack this turn out of Registeel, and that could have been crucial as Nightshade is able to take down the Spectrier. But at this point, because Registeel's by himself and that Fiery Wrath flinch, this is VGC, Gavin. We know how it works. You got a 20% chance, and if it goes in your favor, it wins you the game.
And even on top of that, had the Registeel gone for an attack that turn, Alexander still doubled into the Spectrier, recognizing that it was going to be the bigger threat long term. So just very safe play there. It's now down to Registeel versus both the Moltres and the Dusclops, and I don't think this Registeel is going to be able to take both these Pokemon down. Maybe after one Iron Defense, the Body Press, I think it should be enough to take out this Moltres. We saw it do a considerable amount of damage when Moltres was still in its Dynamax form, but Dusclops free to go for those two, I think it's two Nightshades at this point to pick up a knockout there, maybe even go for a Pain Split or a Haze. Again, Alexander just playing this really, really confidently.
Good to know that the Registeel actually survives that Fiery Wrath as a single target attack from the Galarian Moltres, so that is a very bulky Pokemon that we've seen there. Not bulky enough to take away game one here. Instead, that will be going towards Alexander Stubbs and what our players are going to do here in game two, as Leonard Kraft is gonna need to force a game three unless he falls down to the loser side, which is a position that nobody wants to be in. The winner of this match, as we are in the winter semis, will move on and just make those chances even better. The Clefairy Landorus is leading on Leonard's end, and Glastrier Dusclops is the choice for Alexander.
Well, here's the Trick Room lead. I mean,
right,
Glastrier, with love for Trick Room to be up, will be able to underspeed the Landorus Therian, go for a super effective attack against it. And while Clefairy is there to provide support, like we saw earlier on in the day, it's going to have to rely on Sing to try and stop Trick Room, and I just don't think that's consistent enough. I mean, sure, you could maybe roll it with a Rock Slide or something if you wanted to give yourself the best chance, but I think Leonard has to start playing like Trick Room is going to be successful in this turn, and by pivoting in this Registeel, you're giving yourself the opportunity to get those Iron Defenses in and slow this game down to match the slow speed of Trick Room.
Landorus was almost forced to switch out on that turn.
Definitely.
As there's the one thing that Landorus does not deal well with is ice types, and Glastrier, boy, is that a monstrous ice type to deal with. So Registeel, obviously resisting ice, would be the switching of choice for Leonard. And Sing does connect on Dusclops. No Trick Room for you, Leonard says, as Dusclops is forced to stay asleep this turn. Max Steel Spike, of course, will still be super effective into the Clefairy. Not enough for a knockout. Does bring it. It's going to land or not, and luckily for Leonard, this Clefairy is really loves his trainer and is singing its heart out, putting these Pokemon to sleep. So Glastrier, 3 turns of Dynamax, not only never gets a knockout, so never gets a Chilling Neigh boost, but Dusclops stayed asleep still, so Trick Room still isn't even up.
Yeah, I think this Clefairy was a model for paintings. I think this Clefairy should really be a great friend because it is helping out the team so far this game.
The Landorus Therian will switch into Clefairy's position on the field, so that will be yet another Intimidate. That was a factor, I kind of forgot about on turn 1. Landorus did Intimidate Glastrier on the opening turn, so all that max steel spike damage was at -1, and the body press, thanks to a critical hit, going through the +2 defense from the max steel spikes, ignoring those boosts, will be enough to knock out Glastrier. That was a gigantic crit for Leonard, and he is back in this game. This turn, Dusclops did not go for Trick Room, instead opted for the Nightshade to do a little bit of damage to Registeel.
I think Trick Room ships sailed once the Glastrier was put to sleep, just because you have to wonder what Pokemon Alexander has in the back and whether or not those Pokemon are equipped for Trick Room. Knowing that one of those Pokemon is Amoonguss certainly would help, but in this case, I think you want to start getting damage down on Registeel. Fortunately for Alexander, with the reveal of the Amoonguss, he has the opportunity to go for a Follow Me Trick Room. That will work, barring a Rock Slide flinch on that Dusclops. And once Dusclops is faster than the Registeel and the Landorus, Dusclops can go for a Haze to get rid of those defensive boosts, to get rid of any Intimidate drops, not that they matter anymore. Or Dusclops could continue to go for Nightshade. So even though it's a very passive lead from Alexander here, there are still options to keep him in the game.
Protect out of Amoonguss on this turn, so the Rock Slide's not going to connect. It will connect, however, on Dusclops, though, so you have that chance of flinching Dusclops to stop it from trying to set up Trick Room. And Heavy Slam from Registeel goes towards the Amoonguss Protect, so no damage on that end. Flinch does not come through. Alexander finally, what is this, turn 5, is finally able to do what he wanted on turn 1, which was set up Trick Room.
And now that Trick Room is active on the field, I think it's time for Alexander to get a little bit of a sleep revenge, if you will, onto the Pokemon on Leonard's side of the field. Unlike Sing, Spore is 100% accurate, will put the Pokemon on Leonard's side of the field asleep, barring something like a safety goggles, which, knowing that the Spectrier was the Pokemon that carries it, means that Alexander is in a pretty safe spot to target either of these slots. And once these Pokemon are asleep, Dusclops can continue dealing the consistent damage it does, maybe get some Pain Splits in here, and keep Alexander in the game.
Heavy Slam from Registeel into Amoonguss, not doing too much there, but the Spore goes towards Landorus, and since Landorus didn't attack yet this turn, that means it's going to be guaranteed to be asleep next turn. But if you saw the speed interactions there, it went Dusclops, Registeel, Amoonguss, so that would mean that Registeel is going to be able to get an attack off this following turn before Amoonguss can put it to sleep.
I'm glad you noticed that, Joe, because I think that's really important for both Alexander and Leonard to recognize if we do get a Game 3. Amoonguss doesn't need Trick Room to put the Registeel asleep.
Nightshade from Dusclops into Landorus there will do the 50 HP towards it. And the Spore will go into Registeel's Protect that turn. This is a smart way to get through Trick Room out of Leonard. You're gonna, if you use Fly, it's a 2-turn attack, just like how we've seen Phantom Force in the previous set. So now the next turn, because Landorus is the slowest thing under Trick Room, nothing can target it in this slot, and then you can use Fly to, either target down that Amoonguss slot for super effective damage, or just, put pressure on the field there. That's a great turn.
Put pressure on the field and force Amoonguss to go for a Protect, otherwise it will get knocked out by Fly. So even though the Landorus's move is very predictable at this point, Alexander has an important choice to make. Do I let Amoonguss go down, or do I protect this turn and just rely on Dusclops to sort of keep this momentum going? Depending on what Pokemon Alexander has in the back, I think influences that opinion. If he has one of the faster Pokemon like Moltres or Regieleki waiting for him, then you have to go for the Protect this turn, because you do not want those Pokemon out in Trick Room.
Protect is the choice for the Amoonguss. The Fly actually dodging, or Dusclops I should say, dodging the Fly there, and the Fly goes into Amoonguss. I got out of my turn order a little bit. The Dusclops attack was too fast for the Landorus slot there. But, of course, the Amoonguss protecting against the obvious Fly going in that direction means that we only have a couple of turns of Trick Room left.
I believe this is the last turn of Trick Room, and I'm curious why Alexander targeted the Landorus slot with that Nightshade. That attack was not going to connect regardless of what happened that turn, so possibly an indication that Alexander wants to keep Registeel at full health, maybe planning on using Pain Split to just immediately knock it down and pick up the knockout later on in this game. A very curious play indeed.
Landorus is going to switch out here for Leonard though, and Leonard is going to bring in the Clefairy that was very strong for it earlier in this game, connecting on those things. The Nightshade, of course, will take down Clefairy. There is no Friend Guard boost if you're under 50 HP. The Nightshade will take it out. And the Heavy Slam from Registeel is a solid amount of damage onto Amoonguss, but not enough for a knockout. The worst part of this for Leonard is because the Spore came after Registeel attack. That means this upcoming turn, Registeel is, guaranteed to be asleep still since it hasn't had one turn of sleep. But good news for Leonard is the Trick Room did expire on that turn. And when Trick Room's over, that's when you bring Regieleki in.
And when you bring Regieleki in and you haven't used your Dynamax yet, that's when you use your Dynamax. So whatever Pokemon is going to remain in the Amoonguss spot, whether it is the Amoonguss itself or if Alexander switches it out to try and take advantage of the Regenerator ability and get some of Amoonguss's health back, that's going to be a lot of damage down onto the field. I think if I were in Alexander's shoes, I would let the Amoonguss go down. The Registeel has been put to sleep. I don't think you rely on Trick Room anymore, knowing that your last Pokemon is not going to want the dimensions twisted, and then send in whatever you have left after the first turn of Dynamax safely without any chip damage.
Regieleki will Dynamax. You kind of forgot with how many turns we've had so far in this game too, that Leonard has not used Dynamax yet. Obviously, Alexander used it right away on turn 1, but Leonard saving it for the perfect moment, which is right now. Regieleki, not only will the Max Lightning target down the Amoonguss, it'll set up the Max Lightning so that way even if Amoonguss endures this hit from Protect, only taking a quarter of the damage, with Max Lightning, all the grounded Pokemon can't be put to sleep anymore. So Regieleki tried to go for the Protect, obviously couldn't because he needed to stay asleep there, and Max Lightning does not take the knockout because of Protect. So Amoonguss is going to stick around for a potential another turn, or at this point it's really down to the Dusclops, which Dusclops sets up Trick Room yet again. This is the menace of Dusclops we've been talking about, Gabby, during all of Players Cup. It's you survived, you endured the 5 turns of Trick Room, right? Well, then the next turn, Dusclops just sets up Trick Room again.
Yeah, and this gives us some more information about what that mysterious 4th Pokemon on Alexander's side of the field is. I was talking a lot about Moltres and Regieleki because I do think those are Alexander's best attackers at this point in time, but there's also that Tapu Fini, and the tough thing about Tapu Fini is that it has probably the worst matchup against the Registeel, but would do great against the other Pokemon that Leonard has revealed, provided Regieleki is no longer a concern. So if it is that Tapu Fini in the back, that could be why you go for the second Trick Room.
Regieleki woke up, targeted down the Dusclops instead of the Amoonguss, but luckily for Leonard, Amoonguss did not, Rage Powder or anything like that. So this Dusclops will get double targeted and knocked out. Leonard has gotten rid of his ultimate enemy in this game, which is the Dusclops. Alexander is forced to bring his 4th and final Pokemon out here, and as we saw, the Regieleki has been poisoned as well, so that is now on the timer.
Tapu Fini coming out to the field, setting up that Misty Surge. More importantly, though, removing the electric terrain. This Tapu Fini is the Calm Mind variant like we saw the other day, does have access to Protect, and I am 99% sure we are going to see a Protect or a Follow Me out of Alexander to stall out this last turn of Dynamax. But really, down to his last 2 Pokemon, Amoonguss did not have a chance to heal thanks to Regenerator. Leonard has found a way through Trick Room. He just has to keep up this pressure.
Yeah, this is coming down to the wire. You have a full health Tapu Fini who is really the best chance Alexander has. You have that access to Rage Powder from Amoonguss on this turn. This third and final turn of Dynamax out of Leonard. You want to make sure that you keep the Fini healthy. Instead of Rage Powder, there will be a Protect from Tapu Fini and Heavy Slam going towards the Amoonguss. Is this enough? for a knockout, and it does get it, so Amoonguss can't even get its attack off. I would assume maybe went for the Sledge Bomb again, as that's what it went for the previous turn. Amoonguss not getting an attack off, and look how strong Max Lightning is through Protect onto the Tapu Fini because of how strong of a special attacker Regieleki is there. So that was an excellent turn out of Leonard. It's now a 3-1 Pokemon count, and it looks like we're gonna get a game 3.
Yeah, Leonard taking out the Dusclops just in time and Dynamaxing the Pokemon that really was the key to his victory here. This Regieleki will not be knocked out by something like a Muddy Water off this Tapu Fini, which is its water type move of choice. And even if you wanted to go for a Moonblast to try and get that special attack drop, you still have to worry about the Heavy Slam from the Registeel as well. If Alexander wants to try and find an out, I believe it's accuracy drops from Muddy Water, but Registeel's still faster than Tapu Fini, so I don't think you can even count on that.
Right, there are, as of now, as Tapu Fini goes for Calm Mind, increasing his special attack and special defense by 1 stage, that's not going to help you against the Heavy Slam. So
no.
While Trick Room is up, Registeel is obviously going to be attacking before Tapu Fini will. So you see how low Tapu Fini is, and you think, all right, we'll just make it through Trick Room, and then Fini is faster. But then you're kind of forgetting that Regieleki outside of Trick Room is an absolute monster as well. So you're really never going to get an attack off against the Regieleki either there. So one of the things I think of as Landers switches in here, the Registeel was kind of left to its own devices the whole game by Alexander, just letting it hang out on the side. I believe it's been on the game ever since turn 1 when it switched into the initial slot. This ends up being the downfall, as Regieleki was still at full HP this whole game until that very moment. So just by not taking care of the side threat that was Registeel this whole time, it ended up being the win condition Leonard needed.
And no accuracy drop from that Muddy Water either, which is going to be key. It looks like all this Regieleki needs to do is land a attack against this Tapu Fini, and we'll be moving on to game 3. So really well played from Leonard and Alexander. I love how the Registeel, like you said, Joe, just was sitting on the field for so long. It didn't even have to go for those defense boosts with the Iron Defense, because Alexander, doing that chip damage with Heavy Slam and Body Press was honestly enough.
Thunderbolt out of Regieleki into Tapu Fini will be enough to take them that sliver of HP it had remaining. And Leonard Kraft has forced a game 3 here in winners semis in the North American region. The winner moving on to winners finals, obviously that would be a big deal. And if
take some notes, because it's probably going to be another long haul, and I can't wait to see what mind games get played throughout it.
Well, it should be exciting. Get those pens down. Make sure we track Trick Room turns and sleep turns and the percentage of sings that actually connect on Leonard's end, because I think he's at 100% right now, if I'm not mistaken. Right?
Yeah, and that's absolutely terrifying. Again, just throwing it out there, Clefairy the Great Friend. You just need to go for that. But talking about going for things, it looks like Leonard has once again gone on the offense here with the Spectrier and Regieleki lead against Alexander's Trick Room lead, and I think we're going to see a double into this Dusclops, and without the protection of the Rage Powder from Amoonguss, I don't know if Dusclops is going to be able to take these hits.
Yeah, this is nice middle ground play out of Leonard here, where we saw in game 1 he was too all in on Spectrier, Galarian Moltres towards the Dusclops. Then game 2 he didn't have the answer for Trick Room, so he had to rely on Sing. This time around he's like, okay, I got Spectrier and I have Regieleki here, so I can kind of answer Dusclops, but if you got some fast Pokemon or a water type like say Tapu Fini, the Regieleki is here to wreck some havoc. So Tapu Fini will switch into that Dusclops slot. Obviously, Dusclops not wanting to take a Shadow Ball to the face here. Leonard, no switches on his end, just pure aggression out here on turn 1 of game 3. Going to Dynamax Regieleki, the MVP that saved the set and saved the series potentially for Leonard in game 2, thanks to those 3 turns of Dynamax last game around. If it's a Max Lightning that went towards that Dusclops, that is going to be super effective into Tapu Fini, so we will find out. Alexander on his end is going to Dynamax Glastrier this time around. No Intimidate this time like we saw in the previous game from Leonard. This is a full-powered Glastrier in this position who has access to Max Quake to hit the Regieleki. But for now, Regieleki's Max Lightning will go into the Tapu Fini slot for the clean knockout. And there will be no late game Calm Mind win condition for Alexander with this Tapu Fini this time, as Tapu Fini is taken out on the switch-in. Already down 4 Pokemon to 3 at the start. Shadow Ball from Glastrier does not do a lot of damage, and a Max Hailstorm instead into the Spectrier is not enough for a knockout, but you see how low its HP is. That Hail chip damage is going to take it down.
And that is great news for Alexander, because I honestly expected...
Oh wait, that's the safety goggles. I'm sorry, Gabby. The safety goggles lets it ignore the hail there. So that's actually a clutch survive out of Spectrier because of safety goggles.
That is a very clutch survive from the safety goggles, and I feel like this is bad news for the Glastrier, because the downside of having the Spectrier still on the field is that Spectrier has access to Will-O-Wisp, and a burn on this Glastrier would be absolutely detrimental to Alexander. Knowing that his last 2 Pokemon are going to be the Dusclops and the Amoonguss means that it's only this Glastrier that's going to be able to do damage for Alexander, and with Pokemon like Regieleki, Spectrier, possibly even that Landorus, and yes, good old Registeel in the back of Leonard's party, Glastrier is going to need all the help it can get.
Max Lightning from Regieleki into the Glastrier does have the benefit of the electric terrain being set up now, so it does additional damage, and Will-O-Wisp connecting yet again on Glastrier, so that will have its attack stat, making it do significantly less damage. Sludge Bomb does do that little bit of damage needed to take down Glastrier, but a burned Glastrier with Max Quake. Regieleki still is a pretty frail Pokemon, but not frail enough, as the Will-O-Wisp was a clutch there, even with the critical hit. The negating it was not enough to knock out the Regieleki, so you will have a third and final turn of Dynamax out of Regieleki.
The Amoonguss really needed to go for Rage Powder there, and even if the Spectrier or Leonard were able to predict that and switch up and go for like a Taunt instead of the Will-O-Wisp, Glastrier not getting burned would have ensured that Max Quake knocked out the Regieleki, and again gave Alexander some offense to gain that momentum back. Amoonguss taking damage isn't a big deal because you have the Regenerator and you have the Dusclops to switch into as well, so it's not a comfortable position, but it's something that you could play around. And now that this Glastrier is burned, I'm not sure if it's going to be able to find that damage needed to get through the defensive titan that is Registeel.
Registeel, you speak of defense, and he shall appear, as Iron Defense is going to boost its defenses, or its physical defense, by 2 stages. And actually very smart Max Guard. I was kind of wondering at the beginning of the turn, why would you Max Guard if you're going to be faster than Glastrier? But you got to think of it, now that the Dynamax is, over, you get that next turn, potentially you can have more pivoting or something like that, and essentially you're just ensuring that Regieleki was not knocked out on this turn with the Max Guard.
And you're also ensuring that there's no Chilling Neigh shenanigans. There's no Max Knuckle to deal that last bit of damage to get that attack boost to try and offset the amount of damage the burn status is taking away. It's a very safe play like we've seen from Leonard throughout all of these games, and even though you do not utilize the offensive power of your Dynamax, you're just denying this Glastrier what it's searching for, and ensuring that even though it may take a few more turns, you're going to be in the best possible position to move on to Winners Finals.
This is the position that both of our trainers are looking towards, being in Winners Finals, not wanting to take that risk and play with your odds of going down to the losers bracket. You want to stay on winner's side to give you the best chance of qualifying for global finals and making it out of the North American bracket. Volt Switch from Regieleki will do a little bit of damage to Amoonguss, but providing the better option of letting Regieleki switch out safely. The only decision that Leonard can make at this point is bringing in the Clefairy.
bringing in the great friend once again just to lock in that victory and give that Registeel the defensive boosts that it probably doesn't need but also wants because it's a Registeel and that's what it does.
Yeah, it's definitely something you don't need, but you're not going to turn it down. You're not going to go, oh no, I don't need an additional 20% survivability to attacks. It's not necessary. No, I appreciate the offer, Clefairy, but I'm all right without it.
I'm gonna pass.
He's kind of laboring here, letting the clock run all the way down, understanding that obviously it is going to select the only possible option left, which was Clefairy. So that let him have those 45 seconds or so to think about upcoming turns and how he's going to deal with it. Body press, though, will go into the Dusclops that switched into that Glastrier slot, so that will do no damage as those pesky ghost types are immune to fighting attacks. I think it would have been cool considering Glastrier was burned on the turn. Obviously, Leonard didn't know he was going to switch out, but it would have been cool to see another Iron Defense and get up to +4. That might be greedy, but that's what I was thinking.
You know, I think that might be on the back of Leonard's mind because let's kind of circle back to, how long that Volt Switch took to click through. Leonard took the full time of the turn, and it looks like he's doing that again here. If you look at Alexander's side of the field, the only way that Alexander would be able to find a victory in this match is to utilize Pain Split, to utilize Regenerator, and just slow the pace of the game down to the point where you're most likely looking for one of those situations where the timer clause kicks in. And, the game calculates who's going to win based off of how many Pokemon are remaining, how much health is remaining. And you want to make sure that you're in the best possible position for when that happens. Leonard currently has the Pokemon advantage, which is the first thing the game checks in that situation. And you want to hold on to that for as long as possible. So by taking all of your time, and, making sure that your move timer has enough time left on it as well, of course, you're just ensuring that that's another win condition that's unavailable to your opponent.
The electricity does disappear from the field, so those Max Lightning boosts, they're not going to be able to help the Regieleki in the back anymore, just going to do regular damage. Nothing really happened on that previous turn as the Heavy Slam went into Amoongus's Protect. In this spot, remember the callback to last game, Gabby? Alexander now has the information that Amoonguss can outspeed Registeel, so you don't necessarily need Trick Room to put the Registeel to sleep.
You don't, but you do need Trick Room for Dusclops in order to move first, and I feel like that's going to be important eventually. I'm not quite sure when you decide to use that. I think you have to wait for the Clefairy to be knocked out, and a Sludge Bomb and a Nightshade would be the best way to start that process.
Follow Me from Clefairy. It's, most iconic move you think about when you think of Clefairy, you think of the redirection. And that Spore, Clefairy, a real team player, being put to sleep, taking one for the team so that Registeel is able to attack freely on this turn. And that Heavy Slam does bring Amoonguss down into the red, so the next Heavy Slam would be enough to knock it out. Nightshade, though, is not enough for the KO. Clefairy is going to have to stay asleep next turn since it did move before it was put to sleep this turn, so you cannot rely on a Follow Me. You really have to be worried about a potential Spore from Amoonguss.
I love how Leonard's clicked Sing, knowing that Clefairy would remain asleep, just because, it's what Clefairy does best in this
Singing
matchup,
in
I
its
suppose.
dreams.
Yeah, I like how the Registeel is targeting the Amoonguss here. Alexander has a very tough choice to make. Do you switch out the Amoonguss and get rid of the Glastrier? Because of that Heavy Slam, do you go for the second Spore onto the Registeel? I was a little bit afraid that Glastrier would be coming in on what would be a knockout, but I think that Alexander really has to prioritize getting the Amoonguss off the field now that Leonard's Pokemon are both asleep, because Amoonguss is going to need that extra health in order to get him through the rest of this game. Dusclops could do something a little sneaky here and go for a Pain Split, not to Registeel, not to Clefairy, but to the Amoonguss if Alexander decides he needs that health. And then the next turn, go for a second Pain Split into the Registeel. It's a little bit unconventional, but it would allow...
Hype, Gabby.
It would be very hype, and it would allow Amoonguss to heal up to full after he does switch it out thanks to Regenerator. And Alexander really needs to be watching the health on these Pokemon because that is what this game is about.
Clefairy actually waking up here from its slumber will get the Protect off, will connect. Nightshade does not target down Clefairy, though. The Nightshade goes into Registeel instead. Registeel wakes up too, but remember, Trick Room is up, so Registeel is now faster than Amoonguss, and the Heavy Slam takes it out. So none of the cool plays that we were just discussing occurred there. I think at this point, you also have the issue with Glastrier on the back being burned. It's been a while since we've seen it, so we kind of, forget that its damage output has been hindered in this game as well. So,
yeah.
That was a really tough turn out of Alexander. Do you switch out for Regenerator, but then you're essentially, knocking out your Glastrier on the way in? Do you just protect? Do you Pain Split like you were talking about? That was a very difficult turn.
It was, and truth to be told, it's possible that the Heavy Slam would have actually KO'd through the amount of health, I guess, given by the Pain Split had Alexander gone for that. Alexander is just, unfortunately, that Glastrier, I don't think it's going to be able to do enough damage to really make much of a difference in this scenario. I think the Dusclops has to go for the knockout on the Clefairy, hope that you dodge any Sings happening along the way. And then Glastrier, could just start throwing out close combats into that Registeel, hoping for a critical hit. But it's really Dusclops games to win at this point. And if Alexander is keeping an eye on the clock, he also needs to keep maintaining, the same number of Pokemon on each side of the field. And with Glastrier so low, that's going to be very difficult.
Close combat doing no type of damage at all, thanks to the burn, and of course because of Registeel's Iron Defense that it had set up previously. Body Press will, however, knock out Glastrier here, so this is, Registeel and Regieleki, the two Regi brethren that have been dominating Series 9 and Players Cup 4, and they're really the talk of the town. They're putting, Regirock and Regidrago and Regice, all of them. They're just cheering on from home as these two really perform at the highest level.
I was gonna say, don't bring poor Regidrago into this. I mean,
he didn't deserve that. You're right. Regidrago didn't deserve that call out. I apologize.
It's bad enough that he has his brother Regieleki just doing so well in this format, but I'm glad you did bring up the other, these other Titan Pokemon, because I do have some Registeel fun facts for you as we wait for this game to wind up. Did you know that 71 players throughout Players Cup 4 decided to bring Registeel? 30 of them alone were from the European region, only 15 were from the North American region, and every single one of them knows Body Press, Iron Defense, and Protect. That's your fun fact.
That was a very fun fact. I appreciate it, as I'm a big fan of Registeel, honestly. I do think if I had to pick a favorite, I would choose Regirock out of the three of them, just out of respect towards Regirock. But
that's fair.
I also like Registeel a lot, and Regice is kind of there. It's hanging.
I feel like you have some great synergy too. Joe Brown, Regirock, a brown
exactly.
Pokemon. It's there.
We kind of go together. He could be my partner Pokemon. That'd be pretty busted going into the first gym with a Regirock, but. We're kind of just hanging around, having fun banter here, as it is pretty much locked up for Leonard at this point. Dusclops can only do 50 damage at a time, and even the Regieleki is tanky enough to take 50 damage because it had more than that. So it's going to be a little bit here. Thunderbolt should be a pretty strong attack, though, towards Dusclops, bringing it down very, very low. The Leftovers recovery does keep Registeel up. I really don't think as Twisted Dimensions return to normal. Gabby, I don't think Registeel, did it even fall into yellow health at any point?
No, it did not. One thing Alexander could have done if there had been just one more turn of Trick Room would have been to finally go for that Pain Split. But unfortunately, the Twisted Dimensions ended. Regieleki was there, and it looks like Leonard will be moving on to the winners final. So congratulations, Registeel. And congratulations, Clefairy, you are both pals.
Yes, that was an exciting set, of course. Leonard lost game 1 there, so